Hello and welcome to the video review of Transformers War for Cybertron Megatron. Megatron comes packaged in robot mode, but vehicle mode is where this review will start. The alt mode is obviously supposed to be a Cybertronian tank, but is more of a mobile cannon, which kind of makes sense if one were to examine the evolution of Megatron. In the G1 cartoon, he was a gun. Then in the movie, he was upgraded to a slightly mobile cannon. Throughout the years, and more recently in the last 10 or so years, we've seen Megatron be tanks. And most recently, in the animated series, we saw him be more of a propulsion system for a giant cannon. So this War for Cybertron figure is actually a nice evolution of that mobile cannon mode. Color-wise, it is rather drab. Black and gray with hints of dark energon purple make this alt mode more depressing rather than menacing, but the cannon itself makes up for it with nice red highlights. The red also draws the eye to the figure's massive equipment in such a way as to say that he's ready to mess up a few bots. If there are any negatives in the tank mode, they have to be 1, the size just feels a bit off, and 2, the treads. To the first point, the alt mode without the cannon just feels empty, small, and useless. This is one of those cases where if you lose one important piece, in this case the cannon, the figure is all but ruined. To the second point, the treads, there are some issues there. The first issue is that the treads in this mode is that they don't really peg in anywhere. They have a bad tendency to flop around whenever the figure is moved. Not only that, the whole tank mode is front heavy. Combine that with the loose treads, and here's a figure with a tendency to point towards the ground most of the time. It is extremely aggravating to have to constantly reposition those treads. Also, parts of the robot's hands are clearly visible in the treads themselves, but that is not an issue when you fold the treads under the figure to make its hover mode. The hover mode, which, while accurate to the game, is more or less the flying cannon. There's nothing really wrong with it, but there's nothing really special there either. The transformation to robot mode is disturbingly easy. With about 10 steps, it is nothing compared to the Madman's origami that is War for Cybertron Bumblebee, nor is it anywhere near War for Cybertron Optimus Prime's complexity either. The figure simply unfolds into robot mode, and then you can place the cannon on either arm. And that honestly is quite a nice touch. Robot mode is what this figure is all about, but there are a few negatives. This particular figure has some floppiness issues in the arms and chest plate and in the cannon, which is almost as tall as the figure itself. It's also very, very heavy, which gives some issues to Megatron actually holding it. The other negative is the coloring. It's not dark enough to be menacing, but not light enough to be making the fanboys rant and rave either. It's rather drab, but at the same point, it's not that bad either. If you look at Prime, he's all red with blue legs and some gray. This is Megatron kind of going to the other side of being all grayish, a little bit of black and some red highlights here and there. It's not bad, but I would have liked a slightly darker paint scheme. Putting those negatives aside, the robot mode is nice. There is no mistaking the head for anyone but Megatron, and the rest of the figure has a nice quality feel to it. Posability is great without the cannon, but it is limited due to the cannon's massive size. Even with that limitation, it is possible to pull off some very dynamic poses. All said, this figure is worthy of the name Megatron. The alt mode may be a little bit odd, but the robot mode more than makes up for it. Fans should most definitely purchase this figure if for no other reason than to be able to have the two great leaders square off against each other on the same shelf. I highly recommend this figure, even with all the little nagging issues.